All right, so we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I have a special guest with me today. My dear friend. She is a former singer, sound oracle, and just one of my closest friends. This is Mei-Lan Maurits. It feels kind of weird like Moritz. I don't say your last name, right? Actually, I just call her May, but she's Mei-Lan on YouTube. She's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Next time we'll do like a performance of some sort or something, so you guys can really check it out. But you can go check her out on YouTube. Phenomenal. And today we're just going to be talking. First time having her on, and we're talking today about the topic of the power of commitment. And at the same time, I also feel like we're going to be diving into pretty much everything that's around that. When May and I have conversations, it's we can go for like hours, and it's just knowledge bombs and lessons and all these different things. It's just people around is always like, man, we should have had a camera on you guys like that last hour and a half. That could have been like 10 videos.
So we decided to now just put a camera on.
That's pretty much how this came about. We're like, okay, no, we should stop thinking about it and just do it. So
here we are.
Yeah. So let's just let's dive into that. I think with commitment, I've been such a big advocate over the years of pursuing exercise, pursuing taking care of like your body, your health, your mind, and being really, really consistent, which is tied so much into commitment. And I feel it is such an important factor right now in today's culture and in today's society, where people need to be committed to their practice. They need to be committed to doing their meditation or doing their breathing or doing whatever it is that makes them feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's such a powerful topic, because when I was thinking about it today, and I thought, okay, commitment, what does that really mean? And the understanding that I had is, when you commit, you give your heart to it. And I think that's what makes it powerful. And I noticed also, like when you were sharing with me about your Flow tribe and the people that are coming to you for this change, right? To feel that change. And I've heard a lot, you telling them, well, be consistent and commit to it. And there's so much wisdom in that, because a lot of us have spent our time, and I can speak for myself, most of my life, I'll just call it being half-hearted. And it comes from fear, this fear of change, maybe, a fear of letting go, a fear of actually our power. Like in essence, we can be more afraid of our power than what will happen. And the moment that we commit to it, it's going into your heart and saying, I am here.
The fear of the power is an interesting thing, because when you first hear about it, it's like, how can someone be afraid of having power? It's almost like someone saying like they're afraid of having too much money. Like right. Somebody who doesn't have money is like, I would never be afraid. Yeah, bring it on to me, And I think like it's about they feel like they're gonna mess up.
Right.
Like, if you put me to the spotlight and now I want to share this message, now you put me to 1 million people and you tell me to share it. Oh my God, actually I don't want to share it. Well, what do you mean? You're so committed to it. But no, I'm afraid I'm gonna mess up. I'm afraid I'm not gonna know what to say, or I'm gonna say it wrong. Mm-hmm. And that fear of like shame, or that fear of guilt or judgment
holds you back.
I think it's like the same thing with power. Yeah, it's like you have so much power, now you can do everything you want, and now someone goes, well, now I'm just afraid again. Now I'm afraid of messing up.
Right. And when we're not committed to something, when we're doing something halfway, that translates into mediocrity, where we just sort of stay. So mentally, we want that change, right? Everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to do better, whatever that means for everyone. And the thing is, and I think the importance of this topic is wanting something and doing it are two different things, but work simultaneously together. And because you start with that desire. I have a desire, for example, if we would talk about your training, right? I have a desire to lose weight, to feel better, to be stronger. What are some of the things that you find?
Getting rid of anxiety, getting rid of anger, getting rid of fear, worry, frustration. People want to have more energy. It's a lot of things like that. Yeah.
And what do you find would stop someone from? So I want it, and then you say, well, here, do this practice. Oh no, I can't because.
It's like what we talked about a few nights ago. I think self-doubt. Is one of the biggest ones. And I remember May, she was in the middle of creating an album, and she came back to the house, and she told me, like, we're having this discussion, and self-doubt was like,
yes,
the thing.
The virus. We don't want to say virus right now, but really the virus for creativity and expansion, I found, is self-doubt. Yeah. Because when you are in a creative flow, or when you are in flow, the moment that thought of doubt comes in, it's an immediate abruption, like stops that flow. And if we connect to that feeling, that just grows and grows and grows, and then it doesn't stream through as easily, or it can actually come to a point where you say, I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, because every time when we have that doubt, we're judging what it is that we're doing, right? And when we judge what we're doing, now it's like we have to go and check. We have to check up on our work, and then we start, and then we check up on our work. That's another way of saying it, And it's like and it's like sometimes we don't need to constantly be checking. It's like there's times to where I feel it's necessary to check. But sometimes when we're, let's say, some of the simplest forms of creation is simply just expressing our idea, having a conversation, going, here's what it is that I'm thinking of, here's what I want to do. And even that, the most basic level, before somebody even gets anything else, they are constantly even checking what it is that they're saying.
Right.
And I think that's like, they can't even fully express what it is that they want, because they're constantly checking on it. And the way they check on it is they check to see whether or not what I'm saying is accurate, what I'm saying is true, what I'm saying is something I really feel that it's right. And all of this stuff can be defined as doubt, versus just saying it the best you can and being okay if you said a few words wrong, or if you go, actually what I said just right there, no, that didn't come out right, let me say it again. That's actually better than, because you're still flowing. You're still letting it all come out.
Flow. I think someone just said letting go, or let go. And I love that. It's like just in that moment, it can come up, it can arise, and just choosing in that moment, okay, I allow that to pass, and let go. And actually, I have found that doubt most likely will be part of your creation. Like, it will be there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any, no matter how experienced you are in creating, I think that the doubt will be there in some form. And it's learning how to flow with that as well. And I love that. I love watching, your practice and how everything is about flow. And I see it even in the movements that you've created. It's not all about like this force, but really allowing that energy to move. And yeah, it's
You know, when you're saying about how we have doubt all the time, like we have doubt every time when we're creating, even if we've been creating for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why that is because as we continuously create, we get better at what we do. And if we keep recreating the same thing, eventually the doubt disappears.
Right.
But what happens is we create and then we move on to new things and bigger things and different
Evolve.
things. And so therefore it's always kind of new. And even though we get really good at our craft, but because it's always new, there's always this part that I'm not sure if this is the right way to do it because this is my first time doing it this way or that way or that style or working with these people. And so there's always a reason for doubt to kind of creep in. And I think a lot of times it still comes in. And, you know, when you watch like interviews and you watch people that have been in industries for a long, long time, they still talk about, man, I was a little scared if it was going to come out right. And you're thinking, you're a master at what you do. How could you be scared at it? And I think that's the reason why, because they're constantly pushing themselves
to that new limit. And a question just came to me. Did you ever have a moment, like, because I know you had a company before, right? And then, but you've shifted into an evolved state, and you've incorporated so much on consciousness and just for quick context, something that I really appreciate about Mike and resonate with your work is we both have similar missions, which is, you know, filtered down is to raise the frequency of the planet from fear into love. And your method, your core method is movement, but also something that that you do that I felt helpful in my life in just being in connection with you is the way that you can translate that into the mental mind, the emotional body, spiritual body, and it's sort of a rounded experience. And was there a moment where you felt, I'm going to do this, like this is what I want to do now, and I'm going to give, because I watch you work, and it is literally like you are dedicated to the people that you work with, you are dedicated to creating, I just see this level of commitment all over it. You are in that flow. Did you have a moment where you said, no matter if I feel fear or whatever is going on, but I'm committing myself to this?
I feel that there was one moment, and after that moment, there was no more doubt that that's what I'm going to do. There was just doubt on how it was going to be done, you know. But that moment that I committed that this is what I'm going to do, I'm here to go ahead and raise the level of consciousness on the planet. And the way that can be translated is, in other words, is I'm here to go ahead and help people become more happier. I think that's another way of saying it.
Right.
And, you know, that was my awakening experience. You know, I share about sometimes on video, a lot on podcasts because they're longer. But just to give a really short context of it, you know, it was about 5 years ago, and I experienced this. This change in energy. You know, this change in energy in my body and in my mind, and basically allowed me to go ahead and experience the most happiest state I've ever had by far. There was nothing compared to it. And then when that happened, I realized, whoa, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. This is what I thought I can create or I can achieve by being more successful or by building a great body. So this, when I look in the mirror and I feel good about myself because I look great, I'm thinking this is the type of feeling, but not ever knowing the feeling because I never felt it. And when I experienced it, I realized that's what everybody is actually wanting, even though they may not know it, just like I didn't know it. And I didn't chase after that. Instead, I chased after what everybody else does in success and for people in fitness, having a great body and things like that. But once I experienced it, I committed myself that moment that I'm going to go ahead and do whatever it takes to help others feel, experience, and have that
Wow.
you know, and that was over 5 years ago. And that was what drove me to leave. That's what allowed me to be able to detach from everything, because I had so many things I was plugged into. I walked away from my life
Wow.
because, and I don't recommend, it's not recommending people to do that. People do what they need to feel what is right.
Right.
But for me, it felt right to do that.
And walking away from what would be deemed as success, right? Like
Yes.
you had it all, right? The
Mhm.
perfect body, the money, like all, like you had
Mhm.
built this empire, right? So that in itself, like that feeling, the soul urging of this is not on path, right? Like there's something more for you, must have been very strong for you too.
There was no doubt. There was no doubt there. That's the thing.
Clarity.
The amount of clarity was at such a high level that I knew that I don't know if I could hold on to that level of clarity.
Wow.
And so I had to make a decision. I was like, you know what? Maybe tomorrow I wake up, I'm back to feeling the way I was. And I only remembered this happening, but I don't have the same clarity as I do. And I wanted to decide. I was like, no, I'm not going to let that happen, because I didn't know what was happening at the time, but I'm not going to let that happen, because I want to go ahead and continue to feel this happiness. And I'm going to put my foot down now and decide that this is where my life will go from this point on. And from there, there was never any doubt that that's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, as the years rolled in, it became, what's the best way to go ahead and help people with this? What's the best path towards it? You know, and
was there clarity on that of this is what I want to be doing, as in when you were in the other in your other company, did it feel like at first, before you had the awakening, did it feel a numbing, like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, almost like the soul was numbing out, and then that's when
it was happening, but I didn't know it was happening.
Right.
That's the thing. I think, like, I feel that this happens to a lot of people, but then they don't know that this is actually happening. The way they experience it is their level of aliveness, their level of performance, their level of mental capacities, their level of energy in their body is dropping and dropping and dropping.
Right.
This is, somebody can call this, being super, super, super stressed. Somebody's constantly in this loop of arguing, complaining, blaming, and not like once in a while, but constantly, like every single day. Doesn't matter what's going on. You're mad at the little things, you're mad at the big things, you're mad at the weather, you're mad, like, always happening. And that, I feel, is what you're talking about, like the soul's like screaming out.
Yeah, and it's just like almost everything is shutting till that explosion happened.
Becoming less present, and so all this stuff, that was happening big time. And all I realized was just that was happening. But because there are so many ways to go ahead and there's so many things to blame it on. There's so many things to go ahead and point the finger on that it's happening because of this. It was hard to know
exactly
that it was coming from within me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, I'm mad at this. Well, there's a reason to be mad at that. And I don't like this. Well, there's a reason that I don't like this. And so there's always some reason connected to that was outside of, there's something that's going on in here that's so big that it's changing how I'm seeing everything.
Mm-hmm.
I had no awareness of that. There was always something to poke at on the outside.
And something that was coming to me when you were sharing that is another form of that would be a disconnection from what you're feeling, because the awakening is I feel all of a sudden, right? That is the great awakening, is that connection to how you are actually feeling, right? And so maybe the reason why the soul is numbing out is because the body has taken over or the mind solely, and it's just going and going, and there's such a disconnection from the heart, such a disconnection from how you're really feeling, right? And so that awakening is this instant alignment, and I feel
Connected to the body.
Connected, again. Yes, all of it. Your soul, your heart, the mind, everything goes, and then that's a form of shock also. Of course, like we hear that a lot in my own experience too. When I had my big awakening, it was a shock to my system, I think for you too, because all of a sudden you are going to feel everything you've been numbing out. And that's like the dark night of the soul, right? That can sometimes people can fall into levels of depression or another form of anxiety, but really what is happening is the body is waking up, the soul is waking up, and everything that we have compressed inside or repressed, the way it went in, whether we chose to feel it or not, it has to come out that way. And so say if something happened and we felt it and we felt angry, but we repressed that anger, and on the outside we stayed composed, when you awaken, that same energy of anger is going to come out as anger. So you know how a lot of times we say, I don't know why I'm just angry and I don't know why. Well, maybe you're angry about something that happened 3 years ago and it's in the memory of your body, but you didn't express it. And so that's just something I wanted to share, that if any of you are moving through that, emotions, and I think now on the planet, on a collective level, that is also currently happening right now. Like years and years or centuries even of oppression, constriction in the body, which is fear, it's a great awakening happening right now, and it's coming out. And yes, it's coming out in rage. Yes, it's coming out violently as well, and heartache.
That's what's
right?
inside the body.
That's what's trapped inside. And
you know, when you said awakening, I just had this thought, this perspective that I actually never had. An awakening of it. I actually never looked at it as, when I talk about this awakening, I talk about it's like this state and this whole general thing, but also it can also be defined as an awakening in the body. Like the body is waking up or getting out of this numb state.
Yeah.
This numb state of not being able to feel how we're feeling, not being able to connect to the emotions, not be able to let things go from the body. And when we are waking up, the body is waking up. The body has been numb for so long, and it's now waking up. And the way it's waking up is the nervous system, the energy is starting to rise in the body, and we can now feel everything. And that's how the body's waking up. And then when we feel everything, and like what we're talking about now, all this anger and all this stuff that's in the body, and the body feels it. What do you do when your body's charged up with a whole bunch of anger and rage? It needs to come out. So it's going to come out in a couple ways. Either it's going to come out in very violent, explosive force of some kind, or really passive. If somebody knows how to do it, then they relax, and it's like very agitating as you're relaxing and letting it go.
Or passive aggressively too, right? Where it will come out in other little ways, maybe less explosive, but it wants to come out. And really underneath, I've found that most often underneath anger is hurt. Is really like, in essence, like it's hurt. Like you are hurting, and so I have found what can be really helpful during those times in healing is when that anger comes out, acknowledge it, because it wants to be heard. And so, you know, we maybe have a belief of, I cannot express. It's not safe for me to express, right? And so when that energy arises or emotion arises, just being with that, acknowledging it, okay, I am angry right now, and asking that question, what am I hurt about? What do I feel hurt? Why do I feel hurt? And that question alone, actually, the energy of that creates an opening, a softening. And when that softening happens is when it can actually really release. And that's where you go in with your love and your compassion, and you can hold a container for yourself, a safe container, where you're allowing yourself to express and also getting to the root of what it actually is, right?
That's what was really causing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that to not hold on, to not stay in constantly focusing on the cause of it. And I think that's the part that's the next, kind of like the next obstacle. I think the first obstacle is that level of acceptance, like acknowledging that it's there and where it came from. Well, acknowledging that's there first, so this way we're not pushing it back in. And then after that is where it came from, how did it happen, what just happened right now, and why am I so upset about that thing, even though it could, maybe on the surface doesn't look like a big deal. And making sure that we don't stay in that state of constantly trying to figure out. I feel like some people, they accept it and then they go, well, I'm gonna figure it out, and then they think about it night and day. And now it becomes
the
this
energy
new,
grows. Yeah, where attention goes, the energy grows, and then that's a new story.
and it's
right?
it's so tough when you hear somebody like that, because I can tell they're like really, their intention is, I'm gonna try to figure this out and I'm gonna try to grow. And then you listen to them and all they do is just talk about the problems that they have had and talk about why they had it. And it's just like, you can tell it's a very, very familiar story loop
Right.
that they have. And you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay, so how long you been, how long have you realized this? Oh, well, I'm not gonna forget it now because I'm not gonna push it back under. I'm gonna express it out. And they just have expressed this for
years.
Months, years. I mean,
so what would you say to someone that was in that situation? Like, what would be something that could help them release maybe that charge over the experience?
They need to recognize, they go back to the same cycle again. They need to recognize and accept that something new is now happening.
Right.
And this acceptance now is, it's a new acceptance. First is I have anger inside of me, and then now I acknowledge that's there. And then now I'm gonna go and find out what it is. So now that I found out what it is, I need to go and accept the fact that I have now created an identity. I have now created an identity around this anger, around this fear. It is now something that, in other words, I'm gonna rephrase that identity word. Let's go with another one, because I feel like there's so much jargon, and jargons can get all lost. It's like, all right, let's just ask. Here's another way of saying it. Now I have to accept the fact that I'm creating more of this anger, and the way that I'm creating more of this anger is super simple. I keep thinking about it. That's it. I keep putting my attention on it. I keep paying attention to anger, and therefore, what happens when you keep paying attention to something? Wherever your attention goes, where your energy goes. So therefore, I keep creating more anger. I keep creating more anger by feeling it here, thinking about it here, and then I would express it. Why? Because I keep paying attention to it. And I need to accept that, and then go back to where did that come from? Okay, that came from constantly paying attention to it. Okay, cool. So now the last thing we do from here is stop doing it. Let it go. Direct your attention somewhere else. We just direct our attention back to where we want to go. Nobody wants to be angry. So let's direct our attention to, let me do this thing that makes me joyful. Let me go ahead and pursue this goal that is good for my life. Let me put all my attention here. And then this voice in the head is gonna go, hey, remember how you were angry about this thing? Yeah, whatever. Let me go ahead and go back and do this and do this. Hey, aren't you gonna get angry about that? Yeah, screw off. And then eventually it just becomes, this is going, and we don't even pay attention to it. We can hear it like this, like a static in the background, like an air conditioning that's running in the background that you just notice. You're like, hey, the AC is on right now. And most of the time we notice it when it turns off, right? Or background music, or or somebody talking that you're not listening to, and you just I'm kidding. So, so anyways, so we just direct our attention to where we want to go.
Because it's like when you're creating when you want to implement a new habit into your life. So say if you're in a habit of critical thinking, judgmental thinking, negative thinking, which I can say I lived a lot of my life in that, unaware. And then one day I looked around at my life and I said, why is my life like this? Why is everything so hard? And I asked, I was venting to a dear friend of mine, and she said, because that's what you think you're worth. Boom. That was like, oh, it's me. And then, okay, well, if it's me, then I can shift that.
Did you accept it right away, or did you go fight back?
Actually, I was really at a desperation point. And that will be another YouTube live for us, yeah, where we can share about that. But my question was, okay, well, how do I? That's generally will be my question. I want to know the how, and so how do I shift that? And she said, just tell yourself that you are worthy. It's like, there was that moment of course, that doubt or critical thinking of, well, how is that going to fix anything? But okay, I'm so desperate right now. I'll give it a go. And so for about 2 weeks, and my life was the same, right? But what was different was I anytime I remembered, I said, I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. And after about 2 weeks, I started to notice a shift in things that were happening, a shift in my body, a shift in my mind. And it's like when the student is ready, the teacher shows up, and the greatest teacher for me was life and is life. And so different things started to come in, and I started to realize that this is in my mind. And so my sole focus was to start consciously, mindfully putting in new thoughts that supported the way that I wanted to feel, supported the life that I wanted to live. And so honestly, I didn't focus on what was going wrong anymore, what I was, pressure or fear. I released that. And I dedicated myself, I committed to thinking thoughts. And trust me, in the beginning, it sounds easier than it is, because we're in such a loop, or I was in such a habitual state and way of thinking. And so, putting in these thoughts, right? And eventually the negative thoughts, or the positive thoughts outweighed the negative ones. And then this new frame of thinking, right? Feeling, our thought creates the feeling creates the action. That's the beingness, right? Mm-hmm. And what we put out, the feeling that is sent out, is what comes back to us. So when I really contemplated that, I think it, I feel it, I become it. What I become is what comes back to me. And so just habitually thinking in ways, and a lot of reframing. This was a process that significantly changed my life, shifted my life. And so just to encourage anyone that is listening, the little steps that you do every day and that you take every day will define your path and where you are going. And so, if you have a goal, goals are great, right? It gives a sense of direction. And really, every day, commit to taking those steps, thinking in ways that support you to live, to be in a life that you want to actually live in. And I think that is the highest form of commitment, because it's love. You're committing to yourself, which is when you can love yourself in that way and say, I commit to feeling good, to thinking in a way that supports me, because when I'm filled up in that, then I am supporting. I can give that back out to others, and what you give out is what comes back to you, and that is your new cycle.
And I love how committing on that core level, committing on your thoughts, you know, like that's something that I personally relate to also.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the commitments that I've made for myself many years ago now is I committed to myself that I'm not going to think violent thoughts. I'm not going to think violent thoughts. And anytime if that happens, and it used to happen daily basis, I mean, constantly throughout the day. And violent thoughts isn't just like wanting to like physically hurt somebody. Violent thoughts actually is any type of negative thoughts, hateful thoughts. Anytime when a person wants somebody else or some other thing to feel pain, to suffer in some sort or another, that is violent. That is violent thoughts.
It's self-hatred too.
Yeah.
Even to yourself.
It's self-hatred to ourselves, because then we feel the outcome of that thought, you know. And I remember when I first started that and realizing why that was important. And you know, I think when people look at thoughts, a lot of times they think like, well, nobody's going to know about it, so I don't need to pay attention so much to that, and I'm just going to go and pay attention to what other people will see, because this is what's more important. And it's because people like that, they care so much about what other people are saying, are thinking, are judging them, that they're wanting to constantly put up this facade.
Right.
But I'm sure a lot of people have heard this over and over about not caring about what other people think, and therefore this like allows people to go in and go, I'm not going to care so much about the outcome of how things look on the outside. I'm going to actually focus deeper on that core level of creation that is in our mind, that's in our feelings. I'm going to focus on not thinking these negative thoughts. In my case, it was not thinking violent thoughts, and I'm going to do my best to not constantly be feeling this feeling of like guilt or of anger and all this stuff. And to be honest, like it was both equally as hard. There were times to where I couldn't stop thinking of these negative thoughts, and there were times to where I couldn't stop feeling the negative emotions no matter what I did. And it was because of the commitment that I had, because of what I experienced 5 years ago, that I committed to myself that I'm going to do whatever it takes to go ahead and not just share this and help people, but the first thing is I'm going to do whatever it takes to hold on to this state of being, hold on to this level of happiness that I was experiencing, that at the time I had no idea why, how, and what to do from there. But no matter what, I was going to commit to making it happen, like whatever it takes. And so that was the thing that kept me going, because it was very, very difficult. And that's why when people are like, when they're starting no matter where they're on in this level of journey, that they need to be committed to it, so this way they can continue to chip away at it.
Yes, because
it's not an overnight
exactly. I like that you brought that up, because you know, sometimes we can look at someone and, you know, in admiration, like, wow, they're living out their life's purpose, and you know, abundant and in joy, in love, and wealth, and we see this, right, and we say, oh, you know, but really now, as you know, I think for both of us here, we are on this path, right, where we said, okay, this is what I'm here to do, and this is what I feel in my soul is right, is what I'm meant to do here during this time, right? And when you're walking in this path, your soul's path, I'll just put it that way, you will be tested. Your level of commitment, dedication, devotion, compassion, grace, gratitude, care, appreciation, name it, you will be tested. You will. It's just part of it. And that However, that testing is honing and mastering the art of compassion, of letting go, of commitment. And it is a continuous process, and you will be releasing deeper layers of commitment or fear even. And so I think that's important to know. You know, we can see this person up there and like, wow, they have it all. And also knowing, well, what did it take for them to get there? And that's something that I'm learning every day in deeper ways. And I think maybe for you as well, right? It's like, what does it take? What does it actually take to go there?
In the time.
In the time and dedication. Like I know for you, I see how many hours you are working and vice versa, right? Like all of ourselves is dedicated and committed to what we are here to do and bring.
It's like people, you know, a lot of people, they look at the outcome, they look at the result, and they go, I want that result, you know, and they don't pay attention to the process to get to the result. They just go, I want the result, and I want it really quickly, and I wish I want, and they just keep focusing on just the result. And just like earlier when we're talking about how if somebody has anger, they need to recognize it, they need to figure out like where it came from, and then they need to go and move on to the next step. And the same thing is this: if somebody wants a certain result, like they want to not be angry and they want to feel good, they need to first focus on that. Okay, I want the result. Why is it important? Okay, good. Now I'm going to let go of that result and put my attention to the process. You know, I had a board about this big. It was a dry erase board, and I had it on my office back in my six-pack days. And the quote, I copied it from when I was at a 24-hour fitness. I remember I was walking through the offices and I saw it on like a wall, and I copied it, and it said, I don't know, let me think. It's been years since I even thought about this one. Don't focus on the, like, in order to achieve your goals, don't focus on the result, focus on the process. It was something that I feel like there's a couple of words that's
like,
kind of
it's
off.
not the journey, but it's not the destination, but the journey.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Except I was like focusing on the process. I just remember clearly I was focusing on process. And I remember at the time, it was so impactful for me because I spent so much time, so much of my attention focusing on the goal.
Right.
And it's so counterintuitive that people go, well, why? It's kind of weird to not focus on the goal. How do you know where you're going? You know where you're going because you're not going to forget your goal. There's a difference between forgetting and focusing. Forgetting means you have no idea about it. You have no idea about this thing. Not focusing on it means anytime when you talk about it, you can go right back to it. But if you don't bring it up, you're not thinking constantly about this. Instead, you're bringing your attention to something else. You bring your attention to the process. That means from step 1 to 10, if somebody wants to get to 10, they don't focus on 10. If they focus on 10, they never get past 1. They need to go from 0, I haven't started yet, I want to get to 10. Okay, so I'm going to put all of my attention on 1, which is the first step in front of me, whatever it takes, you know. And then once I'm done with this, then I put all my attention on 2. And if somehow I feel like, am I on the right track? I look up, oh right, 10, okay, got it. Then I go back down and I focus on 2, and then I go at 2, and then I go at 3, and we keep doing that. And so we look up sometimes just to go ahead and make sure we're still aligned to our goal, but we don't focus on the goal. That's probably one of the biggest things. And you know, as you're saying, that something else that came to mind is like, I think a lot of people, when they hear like, wow, how long have you been training for? How long have you been practicing for? So many X amount of years. Oh my God. It's like standing at the hill of the bottom of the mountain looking up and going, holy shit.
How do I get there?
You know, what am I gonna do? And I think that goes back into where we're at when we're at step 0, trying to take step 1, and then we look at step 10. Except that step 10 doesn't sound really intimidating. Step 100. There you go. Holy crap! I haven't started step 1, and you're telling me there's 100 steps. And what they do is they go, well, maybe I don't want this thing.
Right, because it looks too big. It's too overwhelming.
And I think one of the ways that I found to overcome this whole big mountain thing is, well, everybody has a different gauge of what is overwhelming. Right. Some people go, give me the biggest freaking mountain because I'm gonna climb the biggest one, right? Cool, you're that guy, yeah, you're that girl. And then there's some people's like, no, I don't want a big old mountain. I haven't even started to climb yet. Just
give me the first mile.
Give me the first mile. Give me that first hill. And so we can adjust our goals. We can adjust what it is that we want to accomplish by, instead of having it to be this ultimate thing. So if, let's say, somebody goes like, I just want to stop arguing with my partner. I'm in a relationship. I really love this person, and I just wished we can just have some normal conversations. That's it. Forget about enlightenment. Forget about letting go of past hurts and blah, blah, blah. I just want to be able to go and have a normal conversation and not get into an argument, because every conversation kind of turns into this argument. And that can be it. That's the goal. And then once I achieve the goal, I can go from there and make a new goal. But I think at least this way, it feels like it's doable for the person that feels like the big thing is not doable. And then at that point, they can decide. And I think that's another way for everybody out there to take that approach when they feel like the mountain is too big to climb.
Right. And it's like committing to even these 10 steps, right? Like, okay, well, 10 steps I can do. Maybe I can't do 1,000 steps right now, but these 10 I can do, and I'm going to commit to that. And whatever you do it with your heart. Because that's going to give you, that is the fuel. That is the energy behind. Because there's going to be some days where maybe even those 5 steps, it's like, I don't feel like it today. Yeah. But when you're aligned with your heart is going to give you that energy to say, well, let's just do 2 then.
So what would be another way of that? What would be another way of saying align to your heart?
I would say first being aware of what it's like to do something halfway or do something with all of yourself. So if you think of it just in any area of your life, or think of a memory where, I'm going to do this thing, but I don't really feel like it, but I'm just going to go through the motions. Mm-hmm. That would be an example, like your heart's not in it. And it's good, you can get somewhere with that, but you're only going to get so far. This is what I've noticed in my personal journey and around me. Yeah. And then say, maybe it's that same thing, but you make a decision and you say, okay, I'm going to do this with full presence. I'm going to do this with joy, and I'm committing to this. I'm going to do this. The energy behind, like even when you think of it energetically, it's you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it completely different. The energy behind it is completely different. And the one where you say, I'm going to do this with full presence, with joy, with all of myself, the quality, the outcome of that, you just raise the quality of that experience or whatever it is you're creating.
Actually,
does that make more sense?
Yeah, that makes more sense. And I thought about, I was thinking of 2 things when you're saying that. I think the first thing is somebody needs to be able to commit the time. They have to commit the time to go ahead and do this thing that they want to do. If you have a goal, you got to commit the time. And committing the time basically also means you got to know when to say no to other things. I think that's like that's one of the most challenging things is saying no to all of these things so you can say yes to this
Jesus.
thing.
Wow.
And a lot of times when people don't want to say no, then they're basically saying no to the thing that they want. You can't say yes to everything. We only have a limited amount of time, amount of energy and resource. So that's something I learned when I was building my business was I had to practice saying no. And the more I practiced saying no, the better I got at it. And I didn't feel the guilt. I didn't feel the FOMO, fear of missing out. I didn't feel the opportunity loss and however, you want to look at it. And I started getting used to and comfortable with just saying no and being okay with it and keeping focus on what it is I wanted to do. And the second thing is what we're talking about, which is like being fully in it, like being present. And that I think is like the next thing that is a really big challenge, which is let's say somebody says no. They go, okay, cool. They start saying no to everything. So now they have the time to go ahead and pursue their goals. But because they're not fully in it, their heart's not fully in it. So maybe they have 6 hours of time to go ahead and pursue this goal. But this 6 hours of time, they're not fully in it in the 6 hours. They're not giving it all they got. They're not doing the best they can. So they're kind of half-assing and there's a lot of fear and they're kind of second guessing themselves, having doubt. And even though they said no to everything and they created the time and opportunity to pursue their goal, they still don't get really far because their heart's not in it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's really it's like the quality when your heart's not in it, like simplified, right?
Mm-hmm.
The quality is going to be less. When your heart is in it, you raise the quality of that experience. And actually that raises it to the highest outcome as well when you're aligned with your heart, with your presence, your joy.
What do you think is what do you do to get your heart into a goal that you have, like something you want to create? Is there a process you go through or how do you do it for yourself?
For me, it comes back to intention and purpose. That's something that before I do anything, before I create anything, before I go live, anything that I always check in with my intention and align my intention with my heart. And I always ask for whatever is needed, whatever will be the best for the highest outcome for the listener, for the experience, for the interaction, for the connection, for the highest outcome to come through for all involved. And that is always my intention. And it's shifted everything for me because immediately then I am present and I remember why I'm doing it. And I'm not doing it just to do it or for whatever watered down reasons. I'm doing it with my heart because that I am passionate about helping people and raising the consciousness, releasing fear, moving into the heart. And so when I align my intention with that, it gives me that purpose, which when I feel that sense of purpose, I feel alive. I feel present. I feel, yes, this is what I'm here to do. Everything just lines up. And then I trust what comes through. It's fueled by that intention.
And I think it's also important to know that sometimes the intention on what it is that we're about to do at that moment could be different than the goal that we have.
Right.
It's not that it's not aligned, but it could be different because sometimes, there's all of these steps, right? The steps 1 through 10, and the goal is number 10. But this next step, of accomplishing step 2, maybe there's a different intention in order to accomplish step 2. So this way we can get to that 10. Right. And I think that's such a great thing. Like I was having a conversation, with my group, and the last call was about intention versus truth. And I was talking about how there's a lot of truth seekers that are in our group that's all about finding the deepest truth to things. And sometimes people will say, I'm just being honest, I'm just saying my truth. And that's great, but if their truth and their honesty isn't aligned with what it is they want to accomplish, they need to go ahead and check that. And so a specific example to kind of bring some clarity to that is if somebody, I gave this example, I always like to use this one because it sets it really clear. It's like imagining a little child, like a 7-year-old,
I can imagine a 7-year-old.
You can imagine a 7-year-old? Her daughter is 7, that's why we're joking about it. So let's say like a 7-year-old girl, is singing and she's singing her heart out and she just doesn't sound good at all. It's a nice way to put it, but in reality she sounds not like just so you just want to like shut it up, right? Just, oh my God, earplugs. But then she comes up to you and she's like, hey, do you like my singing? Like, how does my singing sound? Because I'm afraid like that doesn't sound good. But she sings all the time, and just one day she decides to ask you, and it's like, if you want to speak your truth, you would just go, well, honey, let me just be honest with you, okay? Your singing is just not good. You missed out on pitches. You sound like you're yelling half the time. You're not even saying words. I mean, honestly, I try to put earplugs on or walk away, and I didn't want to be mean, but I'm just being truthful. And maybe somebody is
like, oh, okay,
right. But then you imagine like how this little girl will feel, But then if the person's intention was
to encourage
this person, and and they know that if this person keeps practicing, they'll get better.
Yeah.
And they decide that they don't want to pursue singing in the future, well, they can decide for themselves, and they don't need to be. They're not there to go ahead and influence that decision by putting them down. And they may say something a little different, like, well, and they don't have to totally lie, but they can just say like, well, honey, yeah, just keep on practicing, keep singing. The more you sing, the better you get at it, and plus, you really enjoy it. And so that is true. They do enjoy it, and so then just keep going. And I think like when people start to follow their intention and doing their best to be truthful, but knowing that their intention is more important, I think,
it raises the quality. And something that I shared about also with my community is that when you align also your intention and become clear with your values, and that's what came up when you were sharing that analogy, if your core value is to bring love, is to bring balance, harmony, whatever it may be, then your intention is aligned with that value. And then that's where you are encouraging. My intention is to encourage. My core value is to bring my love, right, to any experience. Then that when you align your value and your intention together, that is going to speak through anything that you say, or even if you're not saying anything, that is what is going to be felt.
Yeah. So I was thinking about the person watching that's thinking about the power of commitment. And I think in order to I want to go ahead and make sure we talk about some of the specific steps, and on somebody who's wanting to be committed, let's talk about what's like that first thing they need to do, what's the second thing they need to do. Because I know for me, like my mind works in the very structured ways, and I know yours do too. Well, I think you have definitely more of both, but mine's like very logical and structured and
young.
A lot of young, And so let's talk about like that first thing. So let's say somebody has a goal.
Okay.
Somebody has a goal that they really, really want to accomplish. The first thing that they need to do, that puts them on the path to being really, really strongly full-heartedness commitment. What would you say that is?
Decision.
Decision.
Make a decision. Decide. In a moment, make that decision here first. It's going to start here first. And allow that decision to then sink in to the feeling. What would it feel like when I commit to this? And you can even bring it further where you're imagining the result or the outcome. What would that feel like? I would say that would be the first two things. Like for me, that's what I did. It was I decided, I made a decision. This is what I'm going to do now. And nothing, unless I am guided in a different way, is going to deter me from this decision.
When a person makes a decision, do you feel like it's okay to have doubt come in? And if it does come in, does that mean they didn't decide, or?
You can be sure doubt's going to come in.
Okay.
Like you can, it will.
Yeah.
Expect
it to.
You can expect your doubt friend to be sitting next to you a lot of the times.
Okay.
And so it's more, but that is the power of commitment, is you can talk to that doubt. Like, I know you're here. I know you're here. And I still decided this is still what I'm going to do. So regardless, like for example, when I first started out, and I had a very big fear of camera. Oh my gosh, I always considered myself, I'm more of an introverted person, sort of in the back scenes, and I didn't, don't really notice me, just fit in. That's been my whole, the way that I move through my life, is just don't stand out. And so stepping onto this path, and I could feel that, and there were different things that were starting to narrow my path into this. And in the beginning, I had so much resistance and excuses, and eventually what started to happen, and I think for a lot of us this is going to show up, is that
somebody did show up.
Yeah, somebody showed up. That the fear will be there, and that's what I felt. But I knew that the more that I wasn't saying yes to this, whatever it was, that this thing for me, it was my soul calling, it started to become uncomfortable in my body. Like after a while, it was uncomfortable, because I knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, what my soul was calling me to do. And so the moment that I made that commitment, even though there was fear, and I would press, go on the camera, and I would freeze, I would pause, like there were so many things. And I always encourage people, if any of you are on this path and you're wanting to be seen, wanting to be visible, but you feel that fear, just go back to my earliest videos and watch them, because you will see an evolution from where I was then to where I am now. And yeah, there's parts of me, I look at that and I feel like, oh, like I should take it down, like I'm cringing at myself. And then the other way, I'm like, no, I'm gonna leave it there, because what a powerful example of when you make that commitment. You can see I'm scared, you can see I'm nervous, and they're by far not perfect. But making that commitment and every day doing it is brought me to where I am now. And where I am now, where will I be 5 years from now? And so that is really, for me, the greatest teacher in commitment, was you decide, and even though fear is there, even though doubt is there, courage is there too. It is. And so I've tapped into that, and I said, well, I'm just going to do it. And it was uncomfortable. There were so many things on this path that I was consistently out of my comfort zone, and still continue to be in ways. And I've committed.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people may experience that when they decided on something, that the doubt that they actually have is the doubt on the decision. And I think that's like that's probably, in my opinion, like one of the biggest things is somebody decides and then they doubt their own decisions. It's not even just like doubt that they can do it. That's one thing, or another. There's a lot of examples in that. But I think the one that's really tough is doubting their own decision of their commitment, doubting their decision to move forward there. Maybe I shouldn't move forward. Maybe I should do something entirely different. Maybe I'm just way over my head. And I think, and I really enjoy how you said that, because it's normal to go ahead and experience that doubt and just to realize that, expect it to happen.
Yeah.
Expect it to happen. So when it does, it's no big deal. It's just part of the process. It's just part of, you fall down, you get back up. It's no big deal. So it doesn't, we don't believe those thoughts when they come in. I talk about that a lot in my group, and a lot of times also in these videos, about not believing all of the thoughts that we have in our head.
Attaching to, not every single thought that comes through we have to attach to, right?
Well, not even to believe it. Like, don't even believe it. Straight up. Like, don't believe the stuff that you hear in your mind. You don't have to believe all of it. Here's the, like, you get to decide what thoughts to believe in. It's like, your thoughts is like, I'm looking for like an example of a book, but it's like, imagine, it's like a book. It's like, do you believe every single thing that you read?
Every word. Right?
Yeah, every word and every single thing. Do you believe every single thing you see on the internet? Do you believe every single thing that you hear from a person? And, it's nobody would say yes to that. That's silly, right? And so therefore, don't think that the thoughts in your mind have any more importance than everything else, that you already realize you don't need to believe everything on the outside, and you don't need to believe everything on the inside either. And I think, so this way, when that doubt does creep in about your decision, about your commitment, you realize, well, I hear it and it's bothersome, but I don't have to believe it. I don't have to believe it. And so, but this has been really wonderful, and we are about out of time here, and
or in the perfect time.
Perfectly. And so we want to answer some questions here. So let's take a look here. Can you talk about procrastination and how to escape the vicious cycle
of postponing?
Let's talk about that one. That's a really good one. So when it comes to procrastination, I think for me, it's connecting. There's a couple things that I do. The first thing when it comes to procrastination is I find some little step that I could take. A little step that I can take to get me to feel like doing the real step. When I don't feel like doing the real step, the reason is not because I don't know why. I know why. I know why I want to do it. I know why it's important, but it's just, I don't feel like doing it. I really don't feel like doing it. And I'd rather just go and not do anything or do something totally different. When I realize that's happening, my goal is to go ahead and get myself to feel like doing it. And so I would go and do something to change the energy inside of me. I would do something to make myself feel better. Because when we feel good, we don't procrastinate as much. It's not 100% solution, but we do it much less. We procrastinate much less because when we feel good, we are aligned with the goals that we want in our mind. It's aligned. But when we aren't feeling good, even in our mind, I want to do this thing, but our feeling is, I want to do something entirely different, and we don't have this alignment. And so what I do is I do little things to get my feeling to go ahead and align to my goals, align to what I need to do. And I think it's different for everybody. For me, I like to go to little things like go for a walk. Sometimes I clean up the house. Sometimes I go and move around a little bit. For me, it's a lot of active, a lot of movement. That feels good for me to change the way I feel. Somebody could listen to some music, maybe they go and ride, or they can do something, but whatever it is, you got to make sure you start to feel better. When you feel better, you'll find it's easier to go ahead and do the things you really need to do, and you start to get rid of the procrastination. What about for you on that?
I resonate with what you said, like changing the way you feel around it. And another thing is just do it. Like, don't wait for that feeling to come in of I don't feel like it and all of that. Just do it. Take the action right away.
What happened if the feeling came in before the just do it?
Then just do it. Like, there's this certain moment also. Again, it's a decision.
Yeah.
Like, make a decision and say, I'm just going to do this. And I know that's can be more mental power, because it's what's happening is a fight between your mind and your emotions. Your emotions are, I don't feel. That's your emotions. The mind, right? It's actually who's going to win in that moment, because the mind can say, okay, I don't regardless, even though I don't feel, I can still do it mentally, right?
Yeah.
And so I for a quick I'll go into my mind and just say, I'm just going to do it. Just flow with it. Oh, I like that. Just flow with it. Yeah.
Let's see.
Nice.
Thanks so much. Okay, Sky Limit, thank you. How important is it to wake up early and start the day versus postponing it? Versus postponing for later in the day. Super important. Always do the thing that will set you up for the rest of the day first thing in the morning. So let's say if you want to go and do some writing, you do writing first thing in the morning, if that's an important goal for you. If your goal is to go ahead and get fresh air, you want to spend at least 30 minutes a day outside, then you do that thing first thing in the morning. You know, for people that are interested in training their body, training their mind, physical practices like what I do, I tell people first thing in the morning, do that. You know, no matter what it is, first thing in the morning is always the best. And it's always the best because you're not being pulled in all these different directions. You don't have all these responsibilities and all this stuff to do. But once you start your day, all of those things, it starts to pull at your energy. It starts to pull at your attention, and you start to feel obligated. You start to get text messages and emails and all these things. So whatever it is, spend it first thing in the morning. Even if you don't have like a tremendous amount of time, you can spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on what it is that what your goal is. But it's always better to do it first thing in the morning. And if you don't have the opportunity, or you already have something that you're doing first thing in the morning, then the second best thing is to go ahead and create a structured time. You set an alarm, always have it to where it fires off every single time at the same time of the day. So this way you bring some structure into it, you're able to create a habit around it.
I was just reading what they're saying.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Oh, you're so welcome, everyone.
Soundbot, thank you, Mike and May. Thank you. Still K, energy stretching. Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's see if we can do.
I think we missed some.
Wash until the pineal gland explode. That's a good one. Remy, wash the sun until the pineal gland explode. Little sun gazing. Yeah. I haven't done sun gazing in a while, but it's great. I really like it. Yeah, really like it. You love what balance does for us by addressing.
Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up here?
Do my slow practice every morning. Yes. It's so fun. Great dog still. Thank you guys so much. Yes.
Thank you for having me and sharing me.
Sky Limit. Do you take cold showers every morning? Do you take cold showers?
Yes, I do.
Yes?
Yes.
I do too. High five that.
Yes. Reset.
Yeah. Together.
No.
No, separate. Flow every morning. Let's breathe. Yes. Virtual high five, boom. Just discovered your videos yesterday. I've tried many of your moves today. Thank you. Greetings from Cyprus. All right, Lewis. All right, and
7 seconds of breathing, yes.
real quick, same, I never take hot showers anymore. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, guys, for joining in, tuning in, and allowing us to go ahead and share our thoughts, talk about commitment, and just sharing what we've been doing to for ourselves and our suggestions for that. I think it's a really powerful topic, and in our hearts, it's to empower people, and also make sure to go and check out her channel, Mei-Lan Maurits, and you will be blown away. It is amazing. She performs and she's singing and she's channeling, and that's something else I want to add. It's so cool. A lot of singers, like, they have lyrics and they're kind of prepping, rehearsing. May does not. There's no rehearsing because she's straight channeling. She's channeling whatever comes through to her, and you should hear the music and hear what comes out. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man, for joining.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
All right, guys. So we love you guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.